To install the magazine catch, start by placing the lower receiver onto the vice block. Take your magazine catch and insert it into the receiver as shown. On the opposite side of the receiver, you want to take your magazine catch spring and your magazine catch button and install this. This smooth side of the button faces the receiver. So you want to install this by giving it a couple twists onto the magazine catch. Give it a couple turns. Finish the installation by taking a punch and pressing on the magazine catch button until the magazine catch is free of the body of the receiver, as shown. And you want to turn the magazine catch clockwise about 6 or 7 turns. Do this until the magazine catch is flush with the face of the button. To test this, I shouldn't be able to pull this off of my receiver block. And if you have a different receiver block, you can also test this with an empty magazine. Insert the magazine and test by pressing the button. The magazine should fall free. That completes the installation of the magazine catch. To install the bolt catch, you want to take the bolt catch buffer and spring. So you want to insert the spring into the hole, like so. Next, take your buffer and insert it into the spring, like so. Next, you want to take your bolt catch and insert it with the paddle facing up and out. Like so. This particular lower receiver does not need a roll pin to install the bolt catch. So we're going to use the included set screw that comes with the receiver. In other receivers, you would have to use a roll pin and a punch. So we want to press this in until we get it started. Like so. And we should just be able to press on that. All right. Take your hex key and just torque down the set screw until it's secured. Do not over tighten this. Just give it a good tug, snug fit. And that should complete the installation of your bolt catch. To install the pivot pin, you're gonna need your pivot pin. This has a flat side to it. You're gonna need your detent spring and a detent. In this particular case, it's easier if you buy a tool to do this work. Otherwise, you will find yourself losing a detent and a spring across your room. So in this particular case, I bought this Real Avid pivot pin tool. Works pretty good. You want to start by placing the part on the receiver. Take the pin that comes with the tool and insert it on the opposite side till it's seated like so. So now you want to insert your detent spring first and then the detent. Insert your detent spring and detent. The tool comes with a plunger. You take the plunger and you press in to seat the detent and spring, and then you want to rotate this until it's captured. At this point, you can remove the plunger. The next step is, final step is to take the pivot pin, right, flat side facing the receiver, the channel, and we want to insert it into the on the opposite side of the tool, like so. As you press this in, this will start to move the opposite direction. You should hear a click. The click indicates that the detent is engaged with the pin. You should just be able to remove the pin for the tool and the tool itself. All right, once you get the pivot pin installed, you should be able to, it may be tough to push in and out with your finger. Take a punch or something and press on it, and it should open up, and just close it and it should snap back. So that's the test to complete the pivot pin installation. To install the safety selector and the pistol grip, you're going to need to place your lower receiver upside down on your receiver block, as shown. Take your safety selector and you're going to insert it into the hole indicated here. On the opposite side of the receiver, you want to take your safety selector detent and you want to place it into the hole in the receiver here. Point facing down into the hole. Next, you want to take your safety selector spring and your pistol grip. On the pistol grip, there's a hole that you need to put the spring in. And you want to turn this upside down. The spring goes over the top of the safety selector detent. And also you want to put the safety selector in a safe position, indicated by the notch here on the safety selector. So it should be pointing to the front of the receiver. And you just want to ease this down onto the receiver. Keep in mind, you don't want to kink this spring while you're doing this. Once you have it in place, the safety selector should be able to move and engage the detent. All right. Finish the installation by taking the grip screw for the pistol grip and a hex wrench or a screwdriver and tightening the pistol grip down to the receiver. Get it snug, and that should complete the installation of the pistol grip and the safety selector. You want to test your safety selector, and it's safe and fire. You should have positive connection with the detent. We want to install the trigger by first assembling the trigger shoe and the spring comes with it. Once you install it, it'll look like what's shown here. Make sure it's in this orientation and make sure the little kink is facing up, so when you put it into the receiver it'll be facing up, and this portion of the spring is under this particular portion of the shoe right here. All right. Next, we want to install the disconnector spring. This particular spring has one side is a little larger in diameter than the other. You can see that slight difference in width right here. This goes into the shoe of the trigger, like so. This is what helps keeps it into the shoe. You want to take your disconnector. Here's your disconnector. And you want to insert that onto the trigger shoe, like so. Should look like this. And of course we're going to press it down so the holes are matching. Now we want to install the trigger into the receiver. Should look like this, and the feet of the trigger spring should lay on the inside of the receiver. Once you're done, inside the receiver, the feet will lay along these edges. All right, place the safety selector in the fire position. And you want to take your trigger and the disconnector and insert it into the pocket of the receiver. Once you have everything lined up, you should be able to pass a punch through this hole to the other side. Okay, once you got everything lined up, you see the punch is all the way through. See that? Now you want to take your trigger pin. See that has a cut here. This side goes in. We're doing from right to left this way. So just take your time. And as you push this through, the punch itself should walk out on the other side. If you need to get a mallet or something, just take a rubber mallet, give it a couple taps until you get it through. Don't try and force it all the way through, because it may still be misaligned. Okay, once you got the hammer trigger pin installed, you want to install your hammer. Here's your hammer spring. Install the spring onto the hammer itself. Okay, once you have it installed, it should look like this. So part of the spring is on the back side of the hammer face, and the legs are in line with the front of the hammer face. Okay, so we're gonna install the hammer. Before we do that, I want to show you the hammer should ride the legs here should ride on the top of the hammer spring here, or trigger spring here and here. So you want the hammer positioned in this manner. Start from the back and just lay it on top of the hammer or the trigger springs on the inside of the trigger pocket, and you want to lean this back and push forward. Take your time, and you should be able to line up the holes and take a punch. Once you get it lined up, it should look like this. Okay, so now we want to install the hammer pin. Same cut, goes in first, so we're doing from right to left. And the punch will walk itself out as you're putting in the pin. That's it. Okay, so now we want to test our trigger. We have the trigger and we have it on safe here. So when I press this, the hammer should not fall. Okay, well now I want to put the trigger into fire mode. Put your thumb on the front of the hammer face, press the trigger. Hammer should fall. All right, keeping your finger on the trigger. Reset the hammer. Should have a click, and when you let go of the trigger, the disconnector should be catching the hammer. So that's what you should get. If you get anything other than that, you have to redo the installation of your trigger. Otherwise, you may end up in a situation you don't want to be in. So just double check it again if it does anything other than what I shown. All right, so we want to put the trigger back on safe, and I want to press the trigger again. The hammer does not fall. All right, so that's our test to make sure it's installed properly. Okay, so normally some AR-15 lowers have a trigger guard that you have to install, but this particular lower has it built into the receiver. So we're gonna skip that. If you need instructions on how to install the trigger guard, you'd have to search for that, right? Okay, so the next portion of the installation is to install the rear takedown pin and the buffer tube. So here's the rear takedown pin. It's the detent and the detent spring. All right, so to install this, we want to begin by putting the rear takedown pin. There's a channel here. Channel faces to the rear of the receiver. You just want to install that. And this goes on the right side of the receiver. Same as the pivot pin. All right. Next we want to install the detent. There's a hole in the rear of the receiver. So the detent just goes into the hole. And then you want to install your detent spring in the hole, like so. Okay, so next we want to install the buffer tube and the end plate and castle nut. All right, so we start by threading the castle nut onto your buffer tube. Take note of the large cuts. The large cuts face to the rear of the buffer tube, like so. Just want to thread this all the way on until it stops. And now we want to put on our end plate. So the end plate, there's a notch in the buffer tube that matches up with the tab and the end plate. So you want to make sure that matches up. Okay, so once you have it onto the buffer tube, you want to start by threading your buffer tube into the end of your receiver. Take care not to cross thread this. All right, so you want to continue this until the tip of your buffer tube starts to touch the hole here, the buffer catch hole. So right as it starts to touch, you're gonna stop. All right, so I'm gonna remove this for now, just for a second. Detent. All right, so once it starts to touch, right about there, what you want to do is you want to back it out a half a turn to here. Reinstall your detent spring. And now you want to put in your buffer catch and spring. So here's your buffer catch spring. All right, so once you've got that down, you want to turn your buffer tube until it catches the edge of the buffer catch. This is under spring pressure, so make sure you are wearing safety glasses. Okay. Okay, so once it's captured, you'll see that. We want to start pushing on your detent, and we want to use the end plate to capture it. Try to make sure you don't kink this detent spring. Okay, so once you have it started and it's pretty straight, it should snap right into place, like so. And you want to tighten your castle nut. Just hand tighten it for now. All right, so once we got that in, you'll notice here that the detent is actually capturing the takedown pin. You can't pull this out anymore. And when I engage it, it should be a good positive snap. And open and close. Close. Open. So that'll loosen up as you use the rifle over time. Okay, so once you have the castle nut hand tightened, you want to take your calcinette wrench and tighten it up. I think the spec is around 40 foot-pounds, but I just usually give it a good snug so it doesn't back out. Good to go. All right, so once you have that installed, you want to install your buffer and spring. Into the buffer tube. Just press it until it's captured by the buffer catch. Should look like this when you're done. Okay, so for this particular build, we are building an AR pistol, and we're gonna use a SB tactical brace just to finish out this installation. Okay, so that should complete the installation of the lower receiver. Okay, so we're gonna start on the build out of the upper receiver. But one thing to note with this particular receiver, it already came with the forward assist installed and the ejection port cover. So if you need instructions on how to install these two items, you'd have to search for those items. Okay, so the next step in the installation of the upper receiver is to install the barrel onto the upper receiver. Receiver, you need the barrel, and you need the barrel nut that comes with the handguard. So this barrel nut will vary depending on the manufacturer or type of handguard, but for this case, this is the one we have. All right, so to get started, what you want to do is place the upper receiver onto the reaction rod. This is a Geisley reaction rod, and you can use the blocks of your choice. Just an example, this is a mag pull block, does the same thing, has the lugs for the barrel extension, same as here. So it just depends on your preference. You can use whatever you like. All right, so install the upper receiver. And before we install the barrel, you want to coat it with some anti-seize. This is Aeroshell, so if you can see that. Aeroshell 33 MS. It's pretty good for barrel nuts and barrel extension. So this is what we're using today for installation. All right, so what you want to do is you want to coat your barrel extension with the arrow shell. Don't need a lot, just need to brush some on. So look like this. Doesn't have to be a lot, right? And we want to, each barrel extension has a notch here with a corresponding notch on the upper receiver's extension here. So you want to mate these up. Like so. All right. And then you want to put a little extra arrow shell on the threads of the barrel, upper extension threads. So just take this and coat it. Like I said, this doesn't need a lot, just so it doesn't seize up it in case you have to take this apart at a later date. All right. All right, so now all you want to do is thread on your barrel nut. Just want to get that hand tight. Okay, so for new installations, you want to, what they call, season your threads. And to do this, you're gonna need a torque wrench. It's a half-inch drive. And you need a breaker bar to loosen it. All right. So what you want to do is set your torque wrench to 30 foot-pounds. All right. All right, so when you're tightening this barrel nut, you want to make sure your barrel nut wrench and the torque wrench is at a 90-degree angle. That gives you the best torque on the nut. So what you want to do is place this on, and you just want to tighten it to 30 foot-pounds. Okay. All right. So now I want to then go back and loosen the threads using my breaker bar. All right. And what that does is just stretches the threads on the extension, and it gives you a better, lets the barrel seat better, so you get a better performance out of the rifle. All right, so I've done this already, but you're gonna do this 3 times. You're gonna tighten it to 30 foot-pounds, loosen it, take it off, tighten it again. That's 2 times, loosen it, and then the 3rd time you're gonna come back, tighten it again, take it off, and then the 4th time you want to torque it to its final spec. So that torque value will vary, again, depending on the vendor of the handguard and such. So in this particular case, it's 40 foot-pounds. So I want to set my torque wrench to 40 foot-pounds for my final torque. So this is our final torque. And we want to set this to 40 foot-pounds. Here's our and the barrel is installed. Okay, so the next step in the installation of the upper receiver is to install the gas block onto the barrel. Gas block, it's a low profile gas block, nothing special. This is a pistol length gas tube. The type of barrel you select will determine the type of gas tube length that you need. You have pistol, carbine, mid-length, and rifle length. But that, like I said, that depends on the barrel type that you choose, or length that you choose. So just be mindful of that. To install this, we need a block, a roll pin starter punch, roll pin for the gas block, punch to set it, and what we want to do is, there's a hole here. See that hole? This hole faces towards the inside of the gas block. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not, but there's a hole there that when you install this sits above that hole. So when it cycles, the gas goes up through the gas block and back to the receiver to cycle the weapon. All right. Okay, so to install the gas tube onto the gas block itself, you're gonna need the armor's block. Just place your gas block down, and you're gonna use your roll pin starter punch to hold your roll pin while you try to set it. Do not just tap it enough to get it started, because you still need to insert the gas tube. So just give it a couple light taps until it's able to stand on its own, all right? So let's try this. All right, so see that? So now I want to take my gas tube again. All right, so this hole, these two holes right here, this hole right here, this is where the roll pin passes through, and this is the hole that the gas uses to cycle the weapon itself. So this goes in first, and we want to line it up with the hole on the gas block, and then we can pass the roll pin through the gas block. All right, and make sure this is in the down position when you do it. So like this, like this. Okay, so I can actually see daylight through the hole, through the roll pin, through the other side, so I think it's lined up. What I want to do is place this down, hold it in place. Now I want to use my punch. It's a little tricky. So it's seated. So now I can just use my punch to finish setting the roll pin. Okay, so once you get the gas tube installed on your gas block, you want to now install it onto your barrel. The hole that we discussed earlier here sits over this gas port once the installation is complete. So you want to ensure that the gas block is aligned vertically along the barrel. Your eye will naturally try to align it up and down. So you can eyeball it. For advanced installations, for things like my friends do, we use a dimpling jig to dimple the barrel. That way the gas block doesn't rotate under heavy fire, it gets hot, set screw backs out or anything. So I've already dimpled my barrel. You can see the example here, right? So I know this will automatically align vertically once I get it installed. But that's something you can do. I'm not gonna cover it in this class. All right. All right, so once you get the gas tube on to the barrel, ensure that it passes over your gas block up into your barrel nut without an issue. All right. And what you want to do is just eyeball up and down to ensure that the gas block is aligned vertically onto the barrel. All right. And once you feel like you got it aligned vertically, what you want to do is tighten your set screw. So you got a set screw. Some people use blue Loctite, red Loctite on these, rock set, so the set screw doesn't back out. For the purpose of this video, I'm not gonna set it until I take it to the range and test it out, so to make sure it cycles properly. But for now, just tighten the set screw. And then check your alignment again. Make sure it's aligned vertically. So eyeballing it, it looks good for me. All right. So now I'm just gonna tighten my 2 set screws. All right. So now my gas block is set onto the barrel. It's not going anywhere. All right, so that completes the installation of the gas block. Okay, so the next step in this process is to install the muzzle device. Generally, or normally, I would install the handguard first before the muzzle device. But in this case, this muzzle device will be recessed under the handguard. So I need to install this first before I put the handguard on. Otherwise, I won't be able to torque it down, okay? All right, so to complete this installation, you need a crush washer. So this particular barrel is a 5.56 barrel, which is a 1/2 by 28 thread, so you need the proper crush washer for that. And also this crush washer goes on in a particular direction. So you have a convex side, which is like a dome, and then you have a concave side, which is like a bowl shape, right? So the bowl shape goes towards the muzzle. The dome shape goes towards the receiver, okay? So you just slide on the crush washer, and then you thread on your muzzle device. Be careful not to cross thread this. All right, so this particular flash can doesn't need to be timed. So I could just torque it down till it's secured. And to do that, I need my calcinate wrench. So just place it over the nut that's on the end of this muzzle device, and I just want to torque it until it's secured. All right, eyeball a little bit. Okay, so we're set. One more, a little more. Okay. Okay, so once it's secured, you should be good to go with the muzzle device. So next we want to do is install the handguard, all right? Okay, so now the final step is to install the handguard. This is a Aero Precision Atlas S1. It's a 9-inch rail. It's a pretty decent rail. So what we're gonna do is slide this over the barrel and the gas block and mate it up with the receiver. Make sure it's snug, doesn't rotate anything. All right. Then we take the supplied attachment pieces and the supplied wrench that comes with it to take it down. Okay. So that's the final attachment, how it attaches. Pretty easy, goes on pretty easy, comes off pretty easy. Pretty solid setup. Okay, so once you get your handguard installed, you should be pretty much done with the build. The only thing you have left to do is to install the bolt carrier group and the charging handle. So now we want to mate up our upper and lower receiver. So looks good. We want to take our charging handle. We want to insert it into the upper receiver. There's a notch in the receiver. You just push up on it and then it'll hold on to the charging handle. For the bolt carrier, to install it, you ensure that the bolt is fully extended, and you place this in the rear of the receiver, upper receiver, and it should slide into place. All right. So you want to check for cycling, make sure it goes in the battery. You want to try and lock the bolt back, make sure it works. Looks good. All right, bolt release. Bolt goes home, no issue. Weapon on safe. Hammer doesn't fall. Weapon on fire. Hammer falls. Cycle. Should have a reset. Falls again. So that's your basic function check. And then this will conclude your installation of your AR-15. All right. Good luck.